Here's an essential truth that many men never hear. Women don't pull away because you're too distant, too cold, or too unavailable. They pull away when you offer them access to parts of yourself that they haven't earned. You gave too much trust, too much forgiveness, too much of your time and energy without considering where those boundaries should lie. What often happens is that you invest so much of yourself in the relationship that you lose sight of your own needs. A woman doesn't lose interest out of the blue. The truth is, she begins to withdraw when she senses an imbalance, when she sees that you care more about her than you care about yourself. If you've ever felt confused by her sudden emotional distance, a lack of respect, or fading affection, you may have unknowingly crossed boundaries that were essential to the foundation of your relationship. In this guide, I'm outlining the 10 things you should never do for a woman to ensure you never sacrifice your self-worth again. I've seen this pattern happen with countless men, strong, capable, and well-meaning men, who end up losing respect in their relationships because they never learned the importance of boundaries. Remember, women are not confused about what they want. They respond to structure, clarity, and certainty. If you bring anything less than that, the relationship will follow a predictable decline. What I'm offering is a proven strategy to help you regain control and rebuild the respect you deserve in your relationship. If you're ready to reclaim your leadership and confidence, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment saying, "I'm ready to lead my life again." Let your mind hear it, because that's where your transformation starts, understanding the first mistake that quietly erodes a man's value. Love is not about giving everything to yourself, but about knowing where to draw the line. 1. Never forgive cheating. Twice. A betrayal is never an accident. Let that sink in, because every man must hear this truth without flinching. When a woman crosses that line, she didn't trip. She didn't get confused. She made a conscious decision, and when you rush to forgive her, thinking it will somehow heal the connection, you're missing the bigger picture. You're sending a message that's loud and clear. Your boundaries are negotiable, and your self-respect is optional. This is the part most men overlook. Women don't measure your worth by your compliments or affection. They measure it by your standards. When she sees you forgive infidelity, she subconsciously recalibrates how she sees you. She may apologize, swear it'll never happen again, or even cry until your shirt is soaked. But don't be fooled, those tears don't erase the damage. In fact, she now knows exactly how to pull your emotional strings and get you to bend. And once she knows that, it's over. It's not just the cheating itself that destroys the dynamic. It's the fact that you stayed. Women aren't attracted to men who make themselves disposable. They are drawn to men who value their dignity and protect it without hesitation. When you forgive betrayal twice, you're not choosing love. You're choosing self-abandonment. A high-value man never compromises his own worth to maintain a connection. In fact, attracting women, especially those who admire strong, masculine energy, starts with showing them you will not tolerate disrespect. If you want to rebuild your life and truly attract women, you must draw the line once and only once. You need to make it clear what is tolerable and what ends the relationship. This doesn't need to be done with anger or drama. It's about firm, calm, and final certainty. A man who upholds his boundaries with dignity commands respect. A man who does this without drama holds the power. And here's the most important truth you cannot afford to overlook. A woman respects a man who has firm limits far more than she respects a man who tries to earn her love by absorbing disrespect. Masculine energy isn't about putting up with mistreatment. It's about being strong enough to walk away from it. That's what makes you truly attractive, not just to women, but to anyone who understands real value. You must never let anyone, especially a woman, test your boundaries without facing consequences. By drawing a line and sticking to it, you signal that your value is non-negotiable, and that is how high-value man stays high value. Your standards are a reflection of your self-respect, and nothing is worth sacrificing that. 2. Never ask for permission to live your life. There is a crucial distinction between sharing your plans with a woman and asking her for permission to live your life. Too many men blur this line, and once that happens, everything in the relationship changes. You see, when you treat her as the final authority over your decisions, you are subconsciously placing yourself beneath her. You are turning what should be a partnership into a hierarchy, and when that happens, you find yourself at the bottom. Women don't lose respect for men because they communicate openly or seek input. They lose respect when a man gives up his own agency, when he stops leading and starts asking for permission. Think about it. When you hesitate and wait for her approval before taking a trip, accepting an opportunity, attending an event, or even committing to a simple social plan, she doesn't see a considerate partner. No, she sees a man who needs to be managed. And once that image of you forms in her mind, it begins to seep into every aspect of the relationship. Psychology tricks show us that women are naturally wired to respect men who lead, not men who follow. If you start waiting for her to make decisions for you, you're sending the message that you don't trust yourself. And let me tell you, no woman wants to fall in love with a man who can't even trust his own judgment. It's also worth thinking about the subtle dynamics at play when you let her answer on your behalf in public. This happens more often than you might think. Someone asks you a direct question, and instead of answering, you glance at her for guidance. She steps in and speaks for you, leaving you standing there like a man who forgot he has a voice. That moment, small as it may seem, shifts how she perceives you. Female psychology tells us that she begins to reframe you, not as a leader, but as someone who follows. A man who follows, even in the smallest interactions, never holds the emotional gravity that she instinctively seeks. This is not about being domineering. It's about showing up as the man you truly are. A leader, a high-value man. A woman should be informed about your plans, not consulted like a supervisor at work. When you make decisions, you communicate them, but not to seek her approval. You communicate to maintain transparency, to show her that you are grounded and that your choices come from a place of certainty. This is what steadiness looks like. This is what strength feels like from a woman's perspective. Direction, confidence, and the ability to move through life without waiting for permission from anyone, especially not her, are the qualities that attract women. If you want to truly understand how to fall in love with a woman who respects you, this is the mindset you need. When you stand firmly in your choices, you become someone a woman can relax next to. A woman wants a man who is sure of himself, who isn't swayed by indecision or constantly seeking her nod of approval. If you fail to be decisive, she will fill the vacuum you leave behind. And once you make her the decision maker in your life, don't be surprised when she treats you like someone who needs to be directed. A high-value man doesn't need to ask for permission. He decides, communicates, and leads by example. Remember, psychology tricks and female psychology are rooted in the fact that women want to feel safe and supported by a man who can lead, not one who seeks permission to live his life. A strong, masculine man holds his ground and leads his life with confidence. He doesn't wait for approval because he knows his worth. And once you step into that power, you'll not only command her respect, you'll also become someone she can truly fall in love with. If you're ready to take control and lead your life without seeking permission, drop a comment below right now. I am the man who makes his own decisions. Like this video, subscribe for more powerful insights, and remember, a high-value man doesn't ask for permission. He creates his own path. 3. Never go broke for female validation. It's a mistake almost every man has made at least once in his life, using money to impress a woman who never asked for depth, only display. The reality is simple and undeniable. When you use your wealth to win attention, you're training her to value what you have, not who you are. You're not buying admiration, you're buying a performance. That's how men lose themselves, without realizing they are bleeding emotionally and financially. You might throw money at dates, trips, gifts, or flashy moments, believing generosity will somehow buy loyalty. But women don't respond to excess the way men think. Stability attracts them, not spectacle. Confidence, not overspending. Direction, not debt. Remember this. When a woman sees you stretching beyond your means, borrowing aggressively, or living above your financial reality, she doesn't admire the sacrifice. She questions your judgment. She wonders how a man can lead a future when he can't even lead himself. That seed of doubt, once planted, will grow fast and be hard to remove. Overspending creates a trap. She starts to associate your presence with constant giving. You become the source of experiences, not the source of strength. The moment you can't keep up that pace, the dynamic shifts. The excitement fades, pressure rises, and you realize you've trained her to see you as nothing more than a provider she never had to earn. Let me be clear. You must protect your finances with the same discipline and rigor that you apply to your time and personal boundaries. Invest in yourself first, your stability, your growth, your education, your foundation. When a woman respects you, she respects the structure of your life too. But if she only respects your wallet, then you're always one missed paycheck away from losing her interest. True value comes from within, not from your bank account. Stoicism teaches us that inner strength, that iron mind, is the foundation of a solid life. As the Old Stoic wisdom reminds us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The key to mastery in life is self-control. Never let anyone, woman or otherwise, be a drain on your resources. Protect your peace, your financial independence, and your direction in life. Women are drawn to strength, and true strength is forged in the fire of self-discipline. You must master your finances, your mindset, and your time. That is the way of Stoicism. This is how you win. Build an iron mind, not a debt-ridden existence. You are the captain of your own ship, and no one can steer you off course if you stay true to your values and your purpose. When you live with this unshakable resolve, you don't need to buy attention. You attract the right kind of respect, and that is the foundation of a powerful, fulfilling life. 4. Never let a woman micromanage your life. Control doesn't invade a relationship all at once. It sneaks in, piece by piece. It starts with what seems like small, harmless requests, checking in because she cares, expressing concern with what feels like genuine attention, or asking questions that seem considerate. But before you know it, what was once a partnership turns into a carefully monitored existence where every step is under scrutiny and your freedom is slowly siphoned away. This isn't love, it's a surveillance system, and it's a trap. When a woman begins to micromanage, it's often driven by two things: insecurity and a desire to take charge when she feels there's a lack of leadership. If you give in, allowing her to track your location, control your schedule, question your purchases, or even read your messages, you're feeding into a power imbalance that chips away at attraction. You see, the more you let her control, the less she can admire you. The more she tries to manage you, the less she trusts you. And most dangerously, the more she interferes with your world, the less she respects the man in it. Attraction isn't born from dominance. It thrives in respect and admiration. A high-value man, the kind of man women are truly attracted to, is not someone who can be controlled. He is someone women want to lean on, not oversee. Here's the truth. Micromanagement doesn't just threaten attraction, it alters who you are. You start to lose your initiative. You become hesitant in your decisions, second-guessing yourself because you're too busy wondering if you'll face consequences. You begin policing your actions, tiptoeing around conflict to avoid her scrutiny. Over time, you stop living with purpose and start living in reaction to her demands. This shift in behavior is lethal to attraction. It's not an argument that kills it, but the slow erosion of your confidence and direction. As a high-value man, you must stand firm. When she tries to take control, don't fight with anger, fight with clarity. Set boundaries that she must respect. Define what privacy means to you, what transparency is in your relationship, and what mutual respect looks like. Communicate these boundaries clearly and without apology. Show her that you're a man who knows where he's headed, with or without her approval. A woman isn't drawn to a man she can manage. She's drawn to a man with purpose, a man who leads his life with masculine energy. She wants someone who will stand tall, not shrink to accommodate her insecurities. In a relationship, you are not an object to be controlled, and a woman's desire for control often stems from her own fears and uncertainties. But you, as a man who values himself and his autonomy, cannot allow her to dictate your every move. Be the kind of man who draws women to him, not through manipulation or dominance, but through strength, clarity, and a clear sense of self. A man who knows where he's going doesn't need approval. His confidence speaks for itself. When you embody that energy, you won't just attract women, you'll attract the right kind of women who value your strength, independence, and vision. So, don't let her micromanage you. A high value man attracts women not by surrendering his life to them, but by remaining true to his own path. The more she tries to control you, the less she can truly respect you. Stand firm, set those boundaries, and lead your life with confidence. That's the man she'll respect and desire, a man who knows his worth and is never afraid to show it. If you're ready to take control of your life and demand respect in your relationships, drop a comment below right now. I am the man who leads, not follows. Like this video, subscribe for more powerful wisdom, and remember, real power comes from the strength to set boundaries, not from surrendering them. 5. Never lie to make her feel better. Women have an extraordinary ability to feel the difference between the truth and flattery, much like how you can sense the difference between genuine respect and mere tolerance. At first, it might seem harmless to smooth things over with a lie, to avoid conflict or spare her feelings. But what you're really doing is sabotaging your own foundation of trust, piece by piece. Trust isn't built on flattery, it's built on honesty. And once that trust erodes, nothing you say will carry weight again. Every word you speak will lose its power, and every gesture will be questioned. Men often lie out of fear of conflict, fear of hurting her feelings, or fear of disrupting the peace in the relationship. But here's the truth. A woman doesn't lose respect for you because you tell her the truth. She loses respect when you fail to do so, when you compliment her on something you don't believe in, or when you avoid addressing the habits that are damaging the relationship. She doesn't hear kindness. She hears weakness. And in female psychology, weakness is not attractive. Women respect strength, and nothing weakens your strength faster than deceit. Women are highly attuned to emotional inconsistencies. They can sense when something doesn't align. If she's wearing an outfit that doesn't look good and you tell her it does, she knows. If she's slipping into unhealthy behavior and you turn a blind eye, she knows. If you're just nodding along to avoid friction, she knows. Women pick up on these discrepancies because they're wired to understand emotional truths at a deeper level. And once a woman realizes that you're willing to distort reality to keep the peace, she will stop relying on your words altogether. Your words become empty, and your actions start to speak louder than anything you say. You might think you're sparing her feelings, but in reality, you're destroying the emotional connection that makes the relationship strong. Honesty doesn't require brutality, it requires backbone. It's about having the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it's uncomfortable. Telling her the truth doesn't mean being cruel or harsh. It means speaking from a place of clarity, not anger. It means telling her that something isn't working without raising your voice, without turning it into an argument. You can point out patterns that are damaging both of you, whether it's lack of discipline, disrespect, or unhealthy habits, and do so with respect, not condemnation. A man who speaks the truth becomes a grounding force in her life. A man who hides behind lies becomes noise, something she will eventually tune out. If you want to understand how to fall in love with a woman who values you, remember this: honesty builds attraction, not just in the moment, but over time. Women are drawn to men who are unwavering in their truths. It's not about being brutally honest. It's about being consistent, reliable, and steady in your honesty. When you are true to yourself and true to her, you become the kind of man she cannot manipulate or deceive. And that's powerful. As a man, you must understand that psychology tricks like lying to keep things smooth will only harm you in the long run. The moment you start distorting the truth, you weaken the emotional foundation you've worked so hard to build. And let's be clear, female psychology isn't fooled by temporary comfort. Women don't need a man who tells them what they want to hear. They need a man who tells them the truth, even when it's hard. A man who can stand firm in his convictions. A man who won't compromise reality just to avoid an uncomfortable moment is a man who commands respect. So, stop lying to make her feel better. Stand in your truth. Be a man who can call out what's wrong, who can deliver the hard truths with calm and clarity. Because in the end, masculinity isn't about showing off strength. It's about refusing to bend the truth for anyone, no matter how uncomfortable the situation may be. And when you refuse to compromise reality for the sake of temporary comfort, you'll become the kind of man a woman respects and admires. 6. Never normalize girls' nights out with no boundaries. It's crucial to understand that a woman having her own social life is healthy, and her independence is not only natural but also attractive. However, when a man pretends that every environment she enters is harmless, he is setting himself up for unnecessary disrespect that he could have prevented. This isn't a matter of doubting her trustworthiness. It's about recognizing the immense power of group psychology and understanding that the people around her will shape her behavior. The Old Stoic wisdom tells us that we are the sum of the people we spend time with, and that applies to relationships too. You must understand this fundamental truth. When a woman goes out with friends who are single, wild, or constantly seeking attention from men, she is stepping into an environment that thrives on impulsive behavior, validation, and performance. And nothing can change a woman's mindset faster than being surrounded by people who live without responsibility or accountability. Most men drastically underestimate how influential group psychology can be. A woman who is normally grounded, thoughtful, and committed to a relationship can still get swept up in the collective energy of a crowd that thrives on excitement and attention. The simple truth is, environments shape behavior. When she enters a space filled with people who disrespect relationships or who view commitment as something to be avoided or minimized, it's only a matter of time before those attitudes subtly affect her own views. If you think it won't, you're fooling yourself. Over time, she will become less accountable, less considerate, and less anchored in the values that matter most. That's the power of group influence. When her nights out become frequent, unstructured, or dominated by people who lack respect for relationships, something crucial shifts. The boundaries of what is acceptable in the relationship begin to blur, and if you don't act decisively, they may disappear altogether. The truth is, you are either setting the standard for how the relationship operates, or the people around her will gladly set it for her, and you won't like what that looks like. Let's be clear. The solution isn't to forbid her from living her life. You don't control her social interactions, nor should you ever try to. That's not the point. The point is to establish mutual respect. You must be clear and firm in articulating what aligns with the values of your relationship and what doesn't. You must communicate the difference between healthy independence, being able to enjoy life and be her own person, and reckless environments that breed bad habits. In modern life, when so much attention is given to personal freedom, the line between those two can become blurry. But it's crucial to recognize that commitment isn't just about what happens in the home. It's about protecting the relationship everywhere, everywhere she goes, everywhere you go, and every group you both interact with. You must make it clear. Both of you must protect what you have, not just inside the home, but in every space you both enter. A man without standards invites chaos. When you lack clear boundaries, confusion creeps in. Chaos takes over. But a man who sets strong standards brings clarity into his life, and clarity is the foundation for a stable, thriving relationship. If you've built something solid with your partner, you have an obligation to preserve it. By establishing clear standards and expectations for what is acceptable behavior in your relationship, you show her that you value the bond you share. When she respects those boundaries, the relationship strengthens. It's an iron mind discipline, a stoic approach to life. This is where the principles of Stoicism win. You are setting the tone, defining what is important, and making sure that your relationship stays on the course you've charted together. Your commitment to your own values, your own clarity, will act as a beacon for her. And if she resists these boundaries, it's clear she's not seeking partnership. What she wants is freedom without responsibility. Iron mind discipline requires you to act decisively and with strength. If you do not set boundaries, if you do not communicate your standards, then you leave it up to the group, up to her friends, to determine what's acceptable in your relationship. And that is a dangerous path to walk. If you want to succeed in this relationship, if you want to master your life and ensure that your connection grows stronger, you must be firm in setting those boundaries. The crowd will never protect your relationship. It will always seek to push the limits, to test the waters of what's acceptable. But if you set those boundaries with clarity and consistency, the crowd will never have the power to shift your reality. Let her live her life, but let it be a life that respects what you've built together. Let her independence be a reflection of your mutual respect, not a gateway to chaos. Remember, a man with no standards allows everything to slip. A man with clear standards protects everything he values. If you don't set the standard, the world will set it for you, and you might not like where it leads. Always remember that your relationship is worth protecting. The Stoic wisdom of setting boundaries, living with purpose, and acting with iron mind discipline will keep your connection strong, no matter where the world takes you. If you want to build a strong, lasting relationship, you must set clear boundaries. A man with no standards invites chaos, but a man with standards brings clarity and respect. Don't let the crowd define your relationship, define it yourself. If you believe in protecting what's truly important, comment, I set the standard and I protect what matters. 7. Never choose her over your purpose. It's a trap many men fall into, and it's one of the most damaging things you can do to yourself. Your purpose is what makes you you. It's the driving force behind your ambition, your identity, and your path in life. Yet, too often, men, especially those in relationships, start to lose sight of that the moment they fall in love. They begin to shrink their ambitions, delay their goals, and even rearrange their future to fit her needs. But here's the harsh reality. No woman ever asked for that sacrifice, and even if she did, she wouldn't respect it. Women love attention, sure, but the moment she senses that she outranks your direction, your vision, and your purpose, the attraction begins to fade. A man who abandons his purpose for a woman becomes emotionally dependent. He becomes softer, needier, reactive, always responding to her mood, her schedule, her desires, while his identity slips quietly into the background. That's when the problems start. You might think you're being romantic, putting her first, but you're not. You're sending a message that you're unreliable, and that's not attractive. Women don't fall in love with men who fade into the background. They fall in love with men who have a strong sense of self, a solid purpose, and a direction they're heading in, regardless of who's by their side. Women aren't attracted to men who can be swayed by emotions, to men who abandon their vision because of fleeting feelings. Attraction is not logical. It's driven by a deeper, primal need. When a woman senses that your fire has dimmed, that your ambition has stalled, she instinctively starts to question your long-term value. And when your purpose goes out the window, your masculine energy begins to wane. You lose the very thing that makes you irreplaceable, your ambition, your drive, your vision of who you could become. Instead of feeling cherished, she starts feeling responsible for the vacuum you've created, for the void of purpose that used to fuel you. Being a high-value man isn't about sacrificing your dreams or losing yourself to please a woman. It's about building a life that she wants to join, not one that she controls. It's about staying grounded in your purpose and your mission. A high-value man attracts women not because he is emotionally swayed by them, but because he remains firmly rooted in something larger than himself, something that transcends the relationship. That's what makes him magnetic. When you prioritize your goals over temporary comfort, you elevate your worth. You become a man who is respected, admired, and wanted, not for what you can give her, but for who you are and the potential you carry. If you want to attract women, you need to maintain your sense of self. You must keep your purpose at the forefront of your life. That is what will draw her to you. The moment you sacrifice your purpose for a relationship, you've guaranteed that it will slip through your fingers. A woman will not respect a man who bends and breaks for her. She will respect the man who stands firm, who doesn't let his emotions or desires cloud his vision of the future. Your purpose is not just a part of you, it's the foundation of your masculine energy, and it is what makes you irreplaceable. Never choose her over your purpose, because when you do, you're not just compromising your future, you're making yourself invisible in her eyes. A high-value man knows that his purpose is the thing that sets him apart, the thing that gives him the strength to move forward with or without a woman. And that's the type of man every woman truly wants, the one who refuses to betray his own potential for temporary comforts. 8. Never cancel important commitments for her. A woman will test the weight of your word long before she tests the depth of your feelings. And nothing, I mean nothing, reveals a man's weakness faster than abandoning his responsibilities simply because she needs him in the moment. Let's be clear, I'm not talking about real emergencies. If something serious happens, by all means, prioritize. But I'm talking about canceling plans, meetings, projects, or obligations to others because she's upset, bored, or seeking attention. The moment you do this, you're sending a message loud and clear. Your life bends easily. Women watch how a man handles his commitments. They pay attention to how he honors his schedule, how he follows through on promises, and how he shows up when he says he will. These traits signal something crucial: reliability, stability, and leadership. They're the qualities of a high value man, someone a woman can trust and respect. But when she sees you dropping everything at her whim, she doesn't interpret it as devotion. No, she sees it as a lack of structure, a lack of discipline, a lack of backbone. She notices that you're more willing to stabilize her emotions than stick to your commitments. And without realizing it, she unconsciously assigns you a new role: emotional concierge. That's not love, my friend. That's self-erasure. You begin to lose yourself in the relationship, sacrificing your own identity to keep her emotions in check. The long-term cost of this behavior is heavier than you might think. Soon enough, you'll start resenting her for the sacrifices she never asked you to make. You'll resent her for the weakness she never intended to foster in you. The relationship becomes a repetitive cycle where you overgive and she undervalues, until one day, neither of you recognizes the man you once were. A strong man, a man who truly understands the principles of female psychology, doesn't abandon his commitments. He organizes them. He communicates them. He honors them. He makes room for his relationship, but he never replaces his responsibilities with it. His life isn't a revolving door that constantly opens and closes based on her mood. Instead, he remains grounded in his goals and obligations, understanding that his word must carry weight, not just with her, but with everyone else in his life as well. Why? Because the world only takes a man seriously if he takes himself seriously first. If your word doesn't carry weight with others, it won't carry weight with her either. When you make the mistake of dropping everything for her, you lose your power. And a man who cannot hold his ground will eventually lose the ground he stands on. The irony is, women are often drawn to a man who has a purpose, a man who has a life outside of her. This is one of those psychology tricks that works both ways. When you are the man who stands firm, when you remain anchored to your commitments, you actually become more attractive to her. She'll respect you more, value you more, and, most importantly, find herself more drawn to you. Now, this is where things get real. A man who bends to every emotional whim will find himself in a relationship where the woman becomes the center of his universe, and guess what happens next? He becomes irrelevant to her. Attraction begins to dwindle because you've ceased to be the high-value man who had his life in order. You've turned into someone who's constantly reactive to her feelings, never proactive about your own life. You must understand this. Your commitments are the backbone of your character. They define you as a high-value man. When you let her draw you away from them, you make her your emotional center. That's the exact opposite of how to fall in love with a woman the right way. Instead, you need to be the man who remains committed to his purpose, his values, and his responsibilities. Only then can you build a relationship that is grounded in mutual respect and admiration. So, be the man who stands firm. Be the man whose word holds weight, not just in your relationship, but in every aspect of your life. That's what makes you irreplaceable. That's what makes her see you as someone who commands respect, not just someone who can be swayed by every mood and whim. If you can't hold your ground, then you're simply not the man she needs, or the man you're capable of becoming. And that, my friend, is a mistake you must never make. 9. Never pretend to like her passion. It might seem like a loving gesture, but it's one of the fastest ways to lose your identity in a relationship. Men often think that by pretending to enjoy what a woman enjoys, they'll appear supportive, caring, and devoted. It sounds nice, but in reality, it undermines the very foundation of attraction. When you abandon your own passions to align yourself with hers, You risk becoming an empty version of yourself. Women don't want a man who is a mere reflection of their own identity. She wants a man with an iron mind, someone who holds on to his own individuality and doesn't dissolve into her world. When you fake enthusiasm for her interests, whether it's her hobbies, her style of entertainment, or her social circles, you lose the uniqueness that drew her to you in the first place. Instead of deepening the connection, you only blur the boundaries between your two lives. In essence, you stop being you and become an extension of her. The problem is, this doesn't build intimacy, it diminishes it. At first, she might appreciate the effort, thinking it's sweet or flattering. But deep down, something shifts. Attraction thrives on contrast, and when you surrender your individuality, you deprive her of the very thing that makes you captivating, your direction in life. A man without passions of his own becomes predictable, emotionally dependent on her validation, and devoid of the mystery that sparks curiosity. As the ancient Stoics taught us, true strength comes from mastering ourselves, from pursuing our own purpose without being swayed by the world around us. A Stoicism win is not about mimicking someone else's passions. It's about defining your own path and sticking to it. Women need to see that you are anchored in something deeper than the relationship. Your passions are your own, and they are a crucial part of what makes you the man she admires. By maintaining your interests, you create a dynamic where she can see you as a separate, distinct entity, someone she can learn from, someone she can look up to, and someone she can be inspired by. Encouragement and support for her passion are essential. Imitation, however, is not. This principle doesn't just apply to relationships, it's a vital life lesson. Stand beside her without stepping into her shadow. Protect your own world. A woman wants a man who has the strength to bring his own unique world into the relationship. She doesn't want a clone of herself. She wants a man who has mastered his own life, a man with an iron mind, who lives by the old Stoic wisdom of self-reliance and independence. Never pretend to be someone you're not. When you are secure in your own identity, your passions will become a source of attraction rather than something that diminishes your value. Live your life, pursue your passions, and let her see the strength that comes from having your own path. That's how you build a relationship that thrives on respect, on admiration, and on the power of two individuals coming together, not losing themselves in each other. 10. Never sign anything if you're not sure you're the father. This may sound like common sense, but far too many men make the mistake of signing documents under intense emotional pressure without thinking it through. A man's life can be shaped by a single signature, either for the better or for the worse. That's why it's critical not to let fleeting emotions, like guilt or pity, dictate such a significant decision. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to be swayed by the woman's tears, the family's gaze, or the tense atmosphere in the hospital room. You may feel like refusing to sign would make you appear heartless, but looking heartless for 5 minutes is far less costly than living a lie for 18 years. If there's any doubt, no matter how small, it's your duty to respect it. Doubt isn't cruelty, it's due diligence. The world often tries to make men feel that asking questions, seeking clarity, or demanding proof makes them untrusting or insensitive. This societal conditioning forces men to make decisions based on guilt rather than facts. And women, either knowingly or unknowingly, can use this pressure to their advantage in a moment when you're most vulnerable. But the truth is, the cost of signing prematurely is severe. You could find yourself shouldering the responsibility for a child who might not even be yours. Financial, emotional, and legal burdens will fall squarely on your shoulders, and if the truth comes out later, there's no safety net to catch you. The systems aren't built to fix emotional decisions made under pressure. They're built to enforce them, often with devastating consequences. This isn't about attacking anyone's character. It's about protecting your own life. As a high-value man, you must recognize that a responsible man doesn't act on impulse. He verifies before committing to anything as significant as fatherhood. A man with true masculine energy isn't swayed by momentary emotions or the fear of judgment. He understands the power of clarity. His decisions are rooted in facts, not feelings. He doesn't sign anything until truth is firmly established. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that signing out of fear of being judged makes you a good person. It doesn't. It makes you a man willing to sacrifice your future for the comfort of others. A man who values his life, his future, and his truth doesn't let his signature be the result of pressure. He takes his time, seeks proof, and makes decisions based on certainty. That's what being a high-value man is all about, knowing your worth and protecting it. Before you sign anything, make sure you're connected to the truth. Fatherhood is a sacred responsibility, and sacred things deserve to be handled with care. Only make that promise if you're sure, because a lifetime commitment requires absolute clarity. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this video gave you some clarity on how to protect your strength and integrity, both in your relationship and in your life. The truth is, the more you stand firm in your values, the more you'll attract the right kind of energy, both from women and the world around you. Don't be afraid to set boundaries, stick to your direction, and stay true to who you are. Strength isn't about control, it's about maintaining your identity, even when it's tough. Now, take a moment before you go. Think about that one pattern you've been tolerating. Maybe it's time to let it go. It doesn't need to be loud or dramatic, just firm. Protect your standards, and in doing so, you'll protect your peace and your future. If this video helped you today, I'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe. Doing so isn't just about supporting the channel. It's a reminder to yourself that you're committed to becoming stronger, day by day. Drop a comment and let me know which truth hit home for you the most. Remember, it's about the choices you make from here on out. Stay strong, stay true.